Good evening. My name is Robertson. I'm the chair of the Underhill Selectboard. Today is the 8th of May. God bless you. It is now a little after 6. According to Brad's computer, it's 6:08. The board just came from 26 Irish Settlement Road for a site visit. We have an agenda that's been prepared in advance. Are there any, I'm going to call it to order, are there any adjustments to the agenda by the board before we get started? Hearing none.
I have one little quick thing, if we could add it on at the very end, regarding 12 Dumas Road.
Okay, so we'll put that in just before the closing public comment. Okay, we'll have 12 Dumas Road added to the agenda. Any other additions or changes to the agenda? Jen?
I thought you said just board members, so I wasn't speaking up, but I would like to, in my same 10 minutes that I have to talk about the painting quotes, I would love to just also mention a quick animal control update on a bite report, just so everybody's up to speed.
Okay, so you're giving that at 6:20, so we'll add a dog bite update.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, so now we're at the point where we can open the floor up for public comment. I do not, guess we have a couple people.
No, these are for CSWD.
Oh, good.
representatives.
And then we have a couple people here. Any public comment from anybody in the virtual or here at the town hall? If not, we'll get right to it. So the next item on the agenda is the Chittenden Solid Waste District fiscal year 26 budget. Thank you, folks from Chittenden Solid Waste. Sorry, we were running a little behind. We did a little site visit, but we're all here now, and we're happy you're here.
Thanks very much. I appreciate your time. Today we'll be talking to you about our fiscal 2026 budget, and my name is Sarah Reeves. I'm the executive director for the Chittenden Solid Waste District, and Elise Sarda is driving for me tonight. Thanks, Elise. So first off, for folks who may not be familiar with CSWD, this is a little representation of who we are. And we're a municipality that was chartered in 1987 at the request of our member districts, so our member cities and towns, of which Underhill is one, to manage the solid waste that is generated within the county. And so that the fiscal 24 revenue wrap up that you see on the left-hand side, that is a representation of the three main sources of our revenue. So we have user fees or tipping fees, and those are the fees that are paid to us directly at our drop-off center, at our material recycling facility, our compost facility, for us to directly manage the material brought to us. The material and product sales is the sales of things like the compost and topsoil and sorted recycling and local color paint. And the SWMF, that stands for Solid Waste Management Fee. So those are the three main components of our revenue. What we do not receive revenue from is we do not receive revenue from our towns directly. So we do not receive any money from property taxes, local property taxes, income, sales tax, and we don't send you a bill for our services. Next, please. Thanks. So I often will get a question as to why I'm here, and why I'm here is because in our charter, our municipal charter, the legislative bodies of each of our member municipalities need to vote to approve the district annual budget, and each city and town has one vote, and they are not weighted by population. So Underhill's vote counts just as much as Burlington's vote. Next, please. I also get asked, well, how are we doing? And so I will point you to that column 3 to really focus there. So of the just over 306,000 tons of solid waste that was produced in Chittenden County over the last couple of years, I think this is from fiscal 24, or maybe 3, of that, 123,000 tons were landfilled. So the rest were somehow diverted. Of that 123,000 landfilled, fully half could have also been diverted, either to compost or to recycling, or as a special waste like electronics or mattresses or scrap metal. That's where we focus a lot of our energy, on getting folks to take a look at what they're putting into their trash and to make sure that it really can only go in the trash. And you can see of the material that was landfilled that could have been diverted, almost 32,000 tons were organics. So we're spending a lot of time education-wise, outreach-wise, working with folks on how to divert that material. Next, please. So for our fiscal 26 bottom line, we are looking at revenue after the cost of goods sold, which is costs of things like paint buckets and sand and peat moss for our topsoil. We're looking at revenue just over $16 million. We are budgeting expenses at just under $16 million. So this budget is a roughly break-even budget if all goes according to plan. Next, please. And so this income pie chart is just kind of showing you again that breakout of the components of our revenue. And this is based on $30 per ton for that solid waste management fee. And I'm going to explain why that is an important caveat in a moment. Next, please. On our expenses, this is to show kind of where the bulk of our expenses go. And most of our expenses are still in the materials management realm, and that is the costs of our hauling contracts. So the fees that we pay to haulers to move our materials either to the landfill or out to market. And it also incorporates the fee that we pay to Casella to run the daily operations of our materials recycling facility. And then you can see the next big chunk of our expenses are for payroll. Next, please. In fiscal 26 compared to this year, fiscal 25, it's quite nearly the same. There's not much increase in revenue, and there's a little bit of decrease in expenses. It's essentially the same budget amounts from this year to next year. Next, please. And for fee changes, and so there's going to be one fee change at our drop-off center regarding to bag prices. That is for the small bag. We currently have 5 different sizes of bags for bag trash. The current small bag is $3 for 13 gallons, and that will increase to $4 for 18 gallons. And the rationale for increasing that was we heard some feedback from our customers that the kind of the gulf between 13 gallons and then the next size up of 35 gallons was a really big swing. And they're finding that it's easier to find trash bags in the 18-gallon, some 13, but you can sometimes find 18. So they were asking us if we could go back to the 18-gallon size, which had originally been the small bag size. And that also kind of closes the gap between the next size up, the medium-sized bag. So we just kind of right-sized the pricing along with the gallon size. And the other fees that are changing at our drop-off centers are for mattresses, and that is directly related to a new contract that we have with our mattress recycling vendor. Their fees to us went up, so we'll be unfortunately passing that on to our customers. But there's no fee increase to our materials recycling facility, no increase to our compost facility, no increases at our environmental depot, and there will be an increase to the solid waste management fee. So I'm going to really spend the bulk of my time tonight on that. Next, please. So what is the solid waste management fee? This is not a new fee. It's been in place since 1993, and it is the per ton fee charged to haulers for Chittenden County generated solid waste that is disposed at the Coventry landfill. So it's either charged directly at the landfill if they bring the material right there, or it's charged at the transfer station in Williston when they deposit the trash at the transfer station. So folks who generate a lot of trash pay a proportionally larger share of that management fee. And this fee is used to support district activities and sometimes also some of our facilities to make sure that we are achieving our mission. It completely supports administration, finance, compliance, IT, outreach, and education. It will partially, in some years, support the DOCs, although this year the DOCs are self-sufficient. It partially supports the compost facility. It supports to about 85% of the environmental depot and the rover program. It also supports our maintenance and roll-off. And it also helps to fund some of our reserve funds, such as capital, closed landfill, a new fund that we're establishing next year for the MRF project, the operations fund, and the community cleanup fund. Next, please. So we did increase this fee last year by about $3, and that was to help beef up the closed landfill reserve, which was running shy of what we needed it to be. And this year, similarly, we needed to help close a funding gap for our new materials recycling facility project. We are realizing that we will likely be short by about $4 million. And excuse me, this was related first to COVID-related delays. We had to pretty much suspend our activity on planning for the MRF for about 18 to 20 months while we managed through the pandemic, the early stages of the pandemic. Since then, high inflation has just meant that costs for everything have gone up since 2020 and 2021. And then most importantly, most critically, was the loss of our ability to use our intended location site, which was property that we owned and have owned for many years on Redmond Road. When that site was determined by A&R to have become, thanks in part to the torrential rains of 22 and 23, had started to become a mosaic wetland, there was no way we were going to be able to build on that site. So we had to abandon that site and find a new one, and we had to spend quite a bit of unanticipated, unbudgeted money to secure that site, which we did do at the end of March. And we are now proceeding ahead with the project, but that was an unexpected, unbudgeted $3 million swing for us. So we wanted to, and again, the reason that we're increasing the solid waste management fee is that we wanted to avoid taking on more long-term debt. So back in 2022, Chittenden County voters approved a bond for us to take out money, to borrow money from the bond bank, and over 82% of voters approved that project, and they believe in this project. But long-term debt for the district is guaranteed by our member municipalities. So if we default on that loan, and if we essentially go out of business as a district, whatever's remaining is the responsibility of our member municipalities on a prorated per capita basis. We didn't want to add any more risk to our member towns and cities. We did look at alternatives to increasing this fee, but they were either not equitable or undesirable for other reasons, or insufficient. So increasing the MRF tip fee was a suggestion. We would have had to have increased that current tipping fee by over $35 a ton to raise that revenue. That would have put us out of market range, and we would have ended up losing tons down to the Rutland MRF. Someone has suggested also increasing the drop-off center fees, but that would have placed an undue burden on a very small number of folks in Chittenden County. About 27% of Chittenden County folks use our drop-off center as their main source of waste management, and that would have been an unfair burden. We haven't done a municipal assessment in many, many, many years. I think since about 1993. We did not want to send you a bill. We're pretty proud of the fact that we don't send you a bill. And someone actually suggested also a per capita fee. And a per capita fee, if we sent you that bill, you would likely need to recover that through property taxes, and we did not want to add to a property tax burden for our member municipalities either. So the fairest, most equitable approach we felt was to increase the solid waste management fee. Next, please. And why? Who pays? We all do. So all generators of solid waste in Chittenden County pay a portion of this fee, and it is incorporated into the overall fees that are charged by haulers to their customers. So it's one component of that bill. So, for example, our fee is one part of the bill. Their diesel costs are another. Their insurance costs are another. Their employee costs are another. Other taxes that they may have to pay are included in that. Tipping fees that they need to pay. So if Myers brings material to Casella, they pay a tipping fee, and that's in their bill as well. Our fee tends to be between about 5 and 7% of an annual household's bill. So it's just one component. And for some context, our last waste source and composition study showed that the average household in Chittenden County generates just over a ton of landfill trash each year. And if you're a subscription hauler, your bill tends to average around $50 a month. That tends to be without composting services, but around $50 a month. So at the current $30 a ton range for that fee, that solid waste management fee, the component of the fee that is your bill is just under $3 a month. At the $40 a ton fee, that our share of your bill would be about just under $4 a month. So we heard from one of the haulers that likely this would mean for them that they would need to be increasing their monthly bill to their customers by about $1 a month, and that jived with what our math showed as well. Next, please. And when we were looking at our fee, I also asked our finance director and information sciences director to take a look at what our solid waste management fee would be had we been keeping up with inflation all these years. So our MO has been to do large periodic jumps, and that's what that orange line in the middle shows. So in 2003, that's at our $17 and some odd cents fee. We raised it back in 2009, took a big jump. We waited until 2014, took another big jump. Waited till 2024, took another small jump. And in general, we have not kept up with certain components of inflation. The dashed green line is the Northeast Urban Class BC Consumer Price Index for each year. That's on the graph. So you can see at one point we met that, and then we were behind again. We did cross, and we were higher than the CPI between 2014 and 2021, and then we fell below it again. And then we are, since then have still been lagging. That's the CPI that we use to adjust our own cost of living adjustment for our employees. The dotted line, that is the consumer price index specific to the garbage and trash industry. And you can see on that pink dotted line that we have only met that consumer price index, that cost, for 1 year in the past 22 years. Otherwise, we have been lagging the cost of doing business in that industry, which is our industry. So when I saw this analysis from a finance director and IT director, what that showed that if had we been following the cost of inflation for the past 22 years, our solid waste management fee today would be about $39.21. So at $40 a ton, this increase basically brings us up to even to where we should have been had we been rising with the cost of inflation all along in small incremental movements. Next, please. So in doing this analysis, we presented to our board a revised approach to solid waste management fee. Instead of periodic large jumps that are difficult to manage for both the district and for haulers, that we would instead look to utilize small, regular annual adjustments that do keep pace with inflation. We would tie these adjustments to a consumer price index that is developed by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, and we would look at two. We would look at the garbage and trash index and the Northeast Urban Class BC. Staff would make a recommendation to our board to be included in our annual budget. That would then be vetted by our finance committee and vetted by our board of commissioners, and that revenue will be used to continue to fund our capital reserve. Once our MRF is built, our new MRF will no longer be able to contribute significantly to the capital reserve fund. The MRF has been the source of our capital reserve fund for the last 20 years. It will not be able to do that. The MRF will need to be able to dedicate all of its operating revenue towards its operating costs, to its debt service, and to contributing to its own capital needs. So we do need to find a different mechanism to be able to adequately fund the other ongoing capital needs for the district facilities. So during the annual budget process, staff has to present to our board our annual budget, proposed annual budget in November for the following July. So by December 1, I have to present a budget to my board. We then have a public hearing in January, and that's so that I can, if I do need to have a municipal assessment, I can give you enough time and time for town meeting day to be able to make your adjustments. We have a hearing in January. Our finance committee reviews it in February. It goes to our board in March or April. So there are lots of opportunities for public comments, public involvement, and if there is an adjustment, that if our board agrees, then haulers will have a sense for what that adjustment is in February, ahead of July. So there's a long lead time for that adjustment. The board can decide whether or not there needs to be adjustments. Staff will have to really make the case, and the board will determine whether or not that case has been made. Next, please. So with the adjustment to the $40 a ton, this is what the income would look like at that level. So the difference here is about 1.5 million, and all of that 1.5 million will be directed into this new MRF project capital reserve fund to help pay that project and to close that gap. Next, please. And so we're anticipating between 1.5 million and 1.7 million in fiscal 26, and likely a similar result in fiscal 27, and that should shrink that gap. Next, please. We do have a requested motion for your consideration tonight, and I would be happy to answer any and all questions that you may have.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Does the board have any questions for Sarah? Patty?
Sarah, this is Patty Richards. I reviewed the material in the packet, and thank you very much for all the background. It was very helpful. Just a real quick question relative to some reserve counts that you have set up. You have a landfill post-closure reserve, and I was just curious which landfill that applies to. Is that collecting funds for the ultimate closure of Coventry?
It is not. We have absolutely nothing to do with Coventry. Thank you for asking the question and clarifying that. So when our host town agreement with the town of Williston stipulated that we assume responsibility for their 2 small landfills. So we have responsibility for the town's landfills, monitoring those. And then we also built a small landfill adjacent to those 2 landfills. So when we built our landfill, the CSWD landfill in Williston, we then had to we had to create a post-closure reserve fund. So for as long as a landfill is in operation, you accept money into that, not just for the tip fee, but also for your closure fund, because we have to have 30 years worth of funds to be able to make sure that after the landfill closes, we are monitoring that landfill for 30 years. So we are in about year 29, I think next year's year 30, actually, of that post-closure period. And we just, as happens in, I think, probably every landfill that is closed, when you get towards the end of the road, what you want to be seeing is decreased landfill leachate output, which is the liquid that is collects at the bottom of the landfill into a tank, and then you have to have it pumped out. So you need to be seeing decreased landfill there. You want to make sure that your seals are intact, that your cap is intact, that the methane production has decreased. All of that has to be monitored for 30 years. If you reach certain levels as directed by the state for all of those things, then you can apply to become, to move into the next level of care, which is called custodial care, which is just a lower level of monitoring, requiring different levels of testing. It's just it's kind of in maintenance mode. And because our landfill is still generating a lot of that leachate liquid, we need to find out why. So we've been undertaking for the past few years, and looking to go forward in the next few years, more study onto what could possibly be the reason that we're still generating a heavy amount of leachate. So we knew we didn't have enough money in that fund as it is designed to whittle down over the 30 years. We knew that we didn't have enough in that fund to take us the next 5 to 7 years, which is what we think it's going to take, frankly, for us to kind of get to the bottom of things and come up with a plan, or if there's any repair that needs to be done to be able to fund that repair. So we're not we're not ready to move into the final phase, the custodial phase of that landfill, but we're still working with some consultants and looking at that. But this is strictly for just the landfills that CSWD is responsible for. So we have Casella is on their own with Coventry.
I just want to comment, I really liked the description of the reserve funds and the waterfall process. Because that was a very interesting thing to read about. And I do really appreciate that chart that you put up relative to the rate of inflation and adjustments to the fee you're collecting. Mm-hmm. And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, a lot of times you don't hear the goods, and I just want to applaud that. That information was very helpful.
Well, thank you.
Really appreciate it. seeing
I
that.
appreciate that. Yeah, thank you very much.
And my last question, I want to throw to Dan. Dan is our representative on the,
And
Alternate
Paul,
Paul.
and
Paul's
Paul.
our actual.
do
you want to come
you,
up to the table, Paul?
do you both support this budget? Because you've been through the details of this relative to representing us for Underhill. Do you support what is in front of us?
Yes, definitely, and I just kind of underscore, excuse me,
Absolutely.
Thank you. Just wanted
the
to put that
operating
on the
budget
record.
as was presented at the $30 per ton solid waste management fee really covers the operation of the district. The increase of $10 on the solid waste management fee is really forward-looking to set aside reserve to be responsible to make sure that we're able to address not only the need for a new MRF, but also all the other capital needs that are going to come down the pipe, which you're all familiar with. You know, after the vote, say, on your bridge needs, our bridge needs the other day. But, we're doing our best to be responsible and run a tight ship. But definitely support this budget.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
And dovetailing on Patty's comment on that graph, which I really like seeing as well. I remember when we would bump up the solid waste management fee in order to keep it steady so that we didn't somehow run into the ire of the haulers too often. And I'm wondering, did that graph kind of help the haulers see, you know, what we're in fact doing and that we're in fact doing something very fair?
Yeah, it's an interesting comment, Dan. The haulers don't like change. You know, nobody really does, and I understand that. And so, but it's hard to ignore the data, right? When it shows that for our industry, we have been lagging behind the cost of doing business and lagging behind inflation. They, you know, the folks that I've talked to, the few that have made presented comments, understand that we need to fund our capital, and they understand that we do need to keep up with inflation. I mean, their prices to us have gone up every year. They haven't held our prices steady. What they are not loving is the large jump, right? So they're saying that they are going to have to communicate, obviously, to their customers that the fees are likely to go up. So what we've done is we've provided them with a letter to the community that explains that this jump is CSWD's fee, so that their customers don't assume that it's only their costs that are going up. So we're providing that to them as public information. And I'll be meeting with them in a few weeks as well to kind of work through and talk through some of any other lingering issues that they may have in the communication of this fee. But no one likes it when costs go up, fees go up, and yet we recognize and they recognize the value of the MRF, and they absolutely understand that having a facility of this size in Chittenden County is going to be helping keep costs down for them for the long haul, because literally it would be a very long haul for folks in Chittenden County and north to go all the way down to Rutland, which is where the only other recycling facility in the state is located. So we process over 55% of the recycling generated in the state, not just Chittenden County. So it's not only a service for our Chittenden County haulers, but for everyone up here in the northern part of the state. So they recognize that benefit, and it's the complaint is it's a large jump. And I say, yes, we didn't want to make such a large jump either, but being faced with the costs that were not under our control and the circumstances of the site becoming a wetland and needing to find new land was not in our control. I think there may be some begrudging understanding, even though they don't like it. So we're helping to work through that with them.
Thank you. Is there, Dana, would you be in favor of making a motion to support the CSWD budget as presented tonight?
Mhm.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion on the motion?
I just wanted, this is Maureen Collins-Kolb. I just wanted to make a comment on regarding the large jump, the process that you're recommending for the ordinance change to shift the way that the fees are going to be done to like the index related adjustments. So it's sort of smaller fees over time as opposed to needing to continue to do big jumps. I just applaud that. I think that's a much more reasonable way to do it than waiting to keep it steady for a long time and then have to do a large jump. So this large jump that's going to happen this year will not be something that has to continue to happen in the future. So I just applaud that.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Are you ready for the question?
Mhm.
All those in favor of supporting the CSWD or Chittenden Solid Waste District's budget as presented tonight, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed with a nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Sarah, for joining us tonight. Sorry, we were a little behind. And Paul, I wanted you to know that Dan said that you like to talk trash.
I can confirm.
You've been representing us for a long time and said you do a heck of a job talking trash at CSWD headquarters, so we applaud you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
and,
you.
Thank you very much.
Staff as well.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Or I guess thank you to the camera. I always look for that. Oh, yeah.
Keep up the great trash talk.
Thank you. Very good.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is to review and approve the painting quotes for the town hall and the post office. Jennifer's here tonight to help us with that.
I gave everybody a letter. Hopefully you have it. There's one change. I made copies so you can see the change. The Underhill Town Hall painting quote from D&B is revised to $24,720. So that's down
great.
considerably. And the reason for that is because originally, when we first went through this with them, we were talking about having them replace some clapboards and do some of the repairs to this building and to the post office. But the level of carpentry, and once we got into the wall here and we've got the rotted windows, we started to get concerned that these guys are painters. Let's hire them to paint and let's get it ready so that when they come in, they can just scrape, paint, and do what painters do. I don't, it's hard to know at this stage whether we're going to stay in those budget numbers that we have. I think we can with the post office unless they find something other than what we see. But I think here, given what we saw, if you all saw what happened under the window in Mandy's office when they peeled back the sheetrock, we don't know if there's other rot elsewhere that's extensive. And until, they get up on the roof area and see where the eaves meet and see what kind of rot there is, we don't know. But as far as doing the actual construction piece, Seth Friedman from Nexus Properties has offered to do that work for us here at the town on a cost plus 20 basis, which means it's the labor cost, material cost, and then he adds 20%. And to work with us here with the staff as we uncover things and make decisions and then come to the board, kind of look at what we have, kind of get an idea of what it's going to cost, but kind of have an understanding that we don't know what we're going to find when we get underneath this because there's been some surprises. But obviously, if it looks like we're heading up over our budget number, then we would come to the board before we incur any additional costs. So I just, when we did the interior job, we got to the point for the job here, we got to the point where the board said, okay, Jennifer, go ahead and offer those, the people, the flooring and the painters, the job. So what I'm requesting would be that you approve my selection. And I didn't make these selections myself, the whole staff, we all reviewed all the bids and the quotes. And I do have the detail of all of those as well. But what I'd like is to have you make a motion so that I can actually go ahead and get Green Mountain Painters lined up and D&B Maintenance for those two painting jobs specifically because we need to get them on the schedule for their summer schedules to start these jobs. And obviously the jobs won't start till after we do the repairs. And this is fiscal year 26, so none of this would start till after July 1 anyway, but painters are booking their schedules for the summer.
So the GMP contract amount is the same as what was presented, $12,540.
Correct.
And the one for D&B is for $32,570.
No, that's the one that's updated. It's 24 to 720.
24,720.
Okay,
And I have a copy of that for you guys, but.
that's okay. So, why don't we break these into two pieces? I'm gonna move that we award the Underhill Center Post Office painting contract to Green Mountain Painters of Colchester in the amount of $12,540. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
So did we get competing bids?
Yes,
Okay, just a minute.
And
Be
that's
clearly
what
on the record. for
yes,
that.
and this
Okay.
was months and months ago. I mean,
Okay.
this was back in,
Perfect.
some of them are from January, I mean, we tried to get on it early, January and last fall,
Okay.
when we were getting the quotes for the painting job inside, we had got painting.
Oh,
for it.
okay.
But I did check back in with all of them to make sure that these quotes were good, and that's why you got the revised quotes.
Great. Any other questions as it relates to the post office painting? Ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the award for the post office, the amount of $12,540 to GMP, please signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Opposed with a nay. Motion carries 5-0. So the next one would be for the town hall. And that would be, I move that we award the town hall painting project to D, like David, and like Nora, B, like Baker. Property maintenance out of Burlington in the amount of $24,720. Is there a second?
Second that.
Any discussion on that?
And just for the record, we received additional quotes
Yes.
other than this one vendor, so that's on the record.
This is just for the painting and not for the, what we don't know what
Correct,
needs to be done.
this is just for the painting.
Stay tuned.
And just for the record, the painting bids, especially the painting bid for Green Mountain Painters was probably almost double for the town hall.
Yeah.
That's what this is. I'm hoping there's some sort of a guarantee in that. I don't know if they warranty their work or how that goes. Maybe painters don't do that, but I'm confident that Jennifer has figured it out.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of awarding the contract to DNB for $24,720, please signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Opposed with an A. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Jennifer, for all that. If you want to, I don't know if we need to sign anything or not for awarding this. If that's something that the consensus would be that we would have either Jennifer or Brad sign those necessary contracts. Is that the consensus?
I think that makes sense.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else as it relates to that fun stuff?
The only other piece, as Dan brought up, is the repair piece.
Oh, do we need to do a motion on the Nexus?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh,
the
yeah.
repair
Okay,
piece.
yeah.
Oh.
Would be that, Brad and I met with, Nexus down at the post office and showed them where it's rotting there and the clapboards that need to be replaced there and the footer, I think it's called a footer, whatever that's called, the fascia board at the bottom.
Scoreboard.
There you go. That. So that one, like I said, seems to be pretty clear cut. The one here isn't quite as clear cut, but Seth has agreed to kind of go step by step with us and make sure that, we only do what we have to do in order to keep the building from falling, caving in. So, I think that we have a unique opportunity that we have a local contractor who's willing to do that. And so, I hope that we can get started with that.
So the cost plus 20 means that the 20% is really the labor.
No.
No, it's the way that the bills are is the hourly rate plus the materials, and then whatever that is, you add 20%.
Right. There's an hourly rate. Okay.
Of $75 an hour, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know, yes.
Who will be overseeing his work just to make sure? I know he's a former select board member, so he gets the
You said you would.
accountability. I'm gonna be the clerk of the works.
Yeah.
We'll check it out as we go. Like, we just don't want to paint rotten wood, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
we're not looking to go whole
Yeah.
crazy here.
Understood,
Just
but
wherever it's,
when we
look.
hire a contractor like this, it's good to have somebody monitoring and managing that job.
Yeah.
So that the expectations relative to the work are communicated on a
It
regular
would
basis.
definitely be one, Brad or myself will be
Okay,
here step by step,
Okay.
so.
So the two of you will be managing the actual work.
Well, until we have, no offense, Brad, until we have a DRB person hired from, and I would prefer not to, continue to place burdens onto Brad. I would like to lighten the load and be mindful of previous conversations we've had about adding responsibilities to the town administrator. So I would rather we try to limit that as much as possible to Jennifer. I mean, I'm not opposed to Brad, looking at it, but I'm also,
That's a really good point.
not wanting to overwhelm and burden, because we are asking Brad to do many, many, many tasks. And this is just another task that, is not necessarily in his wheelhouse, but he's so willing to do these things. And don't take this the wrong way, Brad, because it's not meant as a criticism.
Oh, no,
It's just
fine.
meant as, I want things to run smoothly. And
That's a really fair point. So
Mhm.
Jennifer will be the point of contact relative to Seth's work, I should say Nexus Properties work.
Yeah.
And making sure that he's, doing appropriate stuff
Yeah.
relative to the budget.
And the reason that it's Nexus is that, there may be projects that he's bringing someone in, still, it's not necessarily that, it's Nexus Properties, so.
Got it.
so a motion to approve Nexus as the contractor to do the construction components for both the post office and, I believe that's right, the post office and the town hall.
Correct.
So I would make that motion that we would approve Nexus Properties to do that. Is there a second?
I will second that. Just to be clear, I think we should say the award is to Nexus Properties at cost plus 20%.
Yeah.
So that that's on the record and there's no confusion.
Mhm.
I agree. Any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of awarding the construction component of this for the town hall and the post office for cost plus 20 to Nexus Properties, with Jennifer kind of overseeing the process, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. Opposed with an A. Motion carries 5-0. So same consensus that, Jennifer and Brad can sign the contracts on behalf of the town for the Nexus as well as for the other painting contractors, I'm assuming?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
What else
Town
we
hall's
need?
gonna look great. And the post office.
Animal control, real quick.
Yes.
Okay, so, two cases that I just wanted to make sure I'm updating you guys on. One, there was another dog bite. There was one last fall, and, the Fuller's dogs on Fuller Road, which is a very widely, used recreation area, the old new road. Someone was attacked again by one of their dogs. This time it fortunately got the shoe and the foot and didn't break the skin or anything, but
Same
nonetheless.
dog?
They have two dogs. It appears it was the same dog.
Okay.
So I wrote them once again. This time I sent them a fine and a letter, and I was planning to tell you that I hadn't heard from her, but I heard from her today after I sent an email yesterday again saying I was not happy that I didn't hear from her at all. And she said today, I am out of the state and I will send payment when I get home. So there's no conversation at this point about a remedy of the situation, but I've made it very clear that I'm concerned about the safety of those who pass by your home on Full Road, and I'm disappointed that you have not responded and taken action to remedy the situation. So clearly they're aware. She's received the email, she's responding, and they're gonna send a check. So if that doesn't happen, I'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
And please keep us posted on the outcome of that.
Definitely. The second case, I did copy the select board on this, there was a dog bite inside of a home. And it was the owner's child that was bit. And I only wanted to make you aware that I sent a letter. We can't govern what happens in people's home with their private property and the dog. But I was very concerned that there was an unprovoked attack of a 3-year-old dog on a 1.5-year-old baby. And when our town health officer reported to the staff here and shared with us the conversation, I felt like the owners needed to have a little understanding of what dogs are capable of and the potential outcome. And also, it's in our community, so my concern that, the child might have friends over or something, or someone may come to the door and that this behavior could escalate and there could be a problem. I wanted to make sure I sent a letter and gave them just a little forewarning, so that it was on the record that the town's aware that this happened. So those are the 2 things I wanted to make you aware of.
Any questions for Jennifer? Okay, well, thank you, Jennifer,
That's
for
it. Very much.
coming in.
Thank you. All right, adios.
Next item
See ya.
is on the agenda is for the highway supervisor, Russ, and we have 3 items here. One is the consider the tree shear purchase. 2 is the Stevensville State Park request to work in the right of way. And 3 is 26 Irish Settlement Road. Just to let the board know, we are about 24 minutes beyond what our agenda is. So not to rush anyone, but just letting you know we're 24 minutes overdue. Take it away, Russ.
Thank you very much. Very excited to be here tonight to discuss this tree shear that I brought to everybody's attention. I hope 2 weeks ago I sent you all an email with some information so you guys had more of an idea what I was talking about versus bringing it up at a meeting tonight and say, well, what is this thing? And it was more of just to set the seed so you guys could review what I'm talking about. And then in this week, as you know, like we are set forth with a task to remove a lot of ash trees within the town of Underhill's right away. And cutting trees is probably one of the most dangerous jobs that we do in the highway department. So my way of thinking is how can we do things better? How can we do things more efficiently and safer? And had this idea and started doing some research and found this particular shear to be what we really liked. I did reach out to a couple other vendors. Couldn't get much interest or feedback from other vendors like I did from this McCarthy Farms and the TMK product. So did everybody get a chance to watch the videos that were tagged to the packet?
Very impressive.
Are we able to play those couple-minute videos?
I think everybody's seen them. We could,
I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
Sarah hasn't.
I haven't, but I can keep up with the conversation.
I think you could just mute it and watch it.
Yeah.
We could put it up, but it's gonna
In
be,
the interest of time, I don't think
Yeah.
we should.
but
If you want to push it through, we can push it through. I
No,
just
no,
think
no,
it's
no,
a
no,
very-
it's
It's a
not.
very,
Can we please play the
yeah,
video?
okay, just a minute here. I just don't have them prepared. If I was prepared for that, I would have been ready, but bear with me.
if you go right to my email, it's in those two.
Yeah, I can't not go on the email on this section here, but let me do the best I can. All right.
Do you want to try and,
Actually, if you get it up, you can, no, I'll do it. Go ahead.
So, let's see if we're on, I just think the videos really share something. Well, maybe while we're doing that, I invited Don Toby here as well, our tree warden, because I've had some discussions with Don about this as well and to get his thoughts. And he was very supportive and so on. He does have some statistics on the ash trees that he has taken inventory of throughout the town with the size of the trees. This particular shear that would fit with our size excavator would take up to a 16-inch tree. He's got numbers of the inventory that would.
Come on up,
Hi. So we have approximately 2,200 ash in the town right of ways that will need to be dealt with. And our inventory divided them into 3 size classes. One was 0 to 12 inches in diameter at breast height, and then 12 to 24 inches diameter, and then those that were bigger than 24 inches in diameter.
Well, you need to take down big trees with this.
Just bear with me.
So, out of the 2,200 trees, 1,439 were in the 0 to 12 inch diameter class, and all of those trees could be handled by this shear head for the excavator. So the 16-inch top diameter that they talk about is for softwood trees. Ash is a hardwood, so I'm thinking 12 inches, maybe 14 inches might be a maximum tree that this machinery can cut.
Mhm.
You don't want to push it too much because we don't want to break the thing. But yeah, 2/3 of the trees could potentially be handled by this piece of machinery. And if you recall, my cost estimates to have tree services remove all these trees ranged from $222,000 to $409,000. And that was, the range was due to average tree size changing a little bit, and also cost for inch of diameter, an average cost. So it's a lot of money. And it could potentially be even more, depending upon how long we put this off. We're already, I would say, a couple of years behind in our tree removals. Remember, the trees need to be removed when they're still alive, or else it's more dangerous to cut them down because the dead trees tend to snap and break when they're falling. And they do require an enclosed cab type of machinery, which this will be. So that's another good selling point on
Our excavator does have a cage on the top of the machinery as an extra protective. And then that we have a protector that bolts to the front of the operator for when we're using the mulch head and something like this as an extra precaution.
So you already have that protection.
We do, yep.
And the attachment or the extra thing we got for the mulch heads, my question was making sure that there is sufficient power to be able to use it and move, and if you had to, what is that called? The hydraulic?
Proprietary valve. Proprietary valve is what.
Okay, so you can work and move at the same time and not have to
With this particular way we take a tree down, we're not really moving as we're going. We're
Got it.
set. Either take it from the bottom or reach up, take the top, bring the top down, place it, and then either take the bottom with the shear, or if the bottom is too big, then we can cut the bottom. So we're taking out the dangerous part and as a tree, and so if it's this big down here, where we can reach is even smaller. So we may be able to, if the tree's bigger at the bottom, but as you get up where we can reach, and we should be able to take it from there in some instances, maybe not all of them, but in some instances. So if the base is too big, we can at least get the dangerous part out and then cut the bottom with the chainsaw. And then we're only dealing with a 20-foot stuff.
Is this a good time to, if you have the video available, to play that?
How much of it you want to play?
Well, I'll let the board kind of say if they got kind of the sense of it, then we can stop it. But I think it's only 100.
The CMte 400 is the way to go.
So it's not sharing in the room.
620 kilos, we collect and deliver 900 kilos, and the rotator is 300 kilos. So fully loaded, it weighs 1,200 kilos. The Cmte 400 has cleaned it from the smallest twigs to up to 40 centimeter trees, so that would be around 16 inch. All moving parts are on one side of the tree shear, so there is good visibility from the operator's seat. That means that the shear is accurate and easy to use. Also, less moving parts, less maintenance. Shear can be tailored to fit every need. Attachments can also be added later on, meaning that you can start with the basic shear and eventually end up, for example, something like this, as your needs grow along the way. Cmte 400 brings more power to cut the bigger trees, and it also has bigger collector capacity to boost the efficiency. The shear is very fast. With the patented turbo cylinder, Cmte can offer a very smart setup to work with tilt rotation.
Thank you.
So want to play the next one?
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary. Patty?
So Russ, what is the capacity of staff?
That was my question.
To be cutting trees? So think about it as if you're using the excavator to go cut trees, the excavator is not being used to maintain roads, not being used to do the gully any culvert projects and do that work. And we have to have the staff to run it. So help us through that.
Sure. So Dwayne obviously is very capable of running the machine, even with this attachment. Yes, it's going to take some time, but it is a job that we need to address within our town. But my thought is we would take some time to do some trees, would take some time to do some culverts, take some time, just kind of, or if we're in an area that we're doing culvert and ditching work and there's ash trees there, that's the time to do it. The attachment is on a quick connect setup, just like our buckets are. So it's disconnect, you can set it down, grab a bucket, do the close connections and move from attachment to attachment. So my thought is like we are on Poker Hill currently right now, and actually I saw I was there today, which was nice to see her. We're doing ditching and tree removal all at once. So actually we're doing mulching, ditching, tree removal in probably over half a mile section. So we're kind of doing it as we go along. We've taken some of the ash trees down where we're able to, but some of them are just a little bit further out and by a stone wall or on the edge of a bank. It can be dangerous to cut a tree down. And we've all seen tree workers work and how they do it, but I do believe there's a will, there's a way. And I'm kind of actually excited about it because it's just a way that we can utilize our people and our equipment and be really a way to save the town some money. It's a big project, there's no doubt about it. It is a project that we do need to get done. So
I just don't see us eliminating the need to hire contractors to cut the ash trees. I'm not saying no to this, but I think we need to have a little bit more of a plan as to how we would use this device and coordinate for ash tree removal to do it in an efficient as possible manner moving forward. Because you're not going to be able to remove every ash tree that we have for sure.
No.
And is it best to coordinate with tree contractors as we go, or take what you see for the 0 to 12 inch diameter? And then I'm just trying to wrap my head around if you're tying up the machine, does that slow us down relative to projects? So
I think especially for this summer at least, our big project is probably going to be Pleasant Valley Road, getting ready for paving. There's some ash trees up through there that could all be done at the same time. So that's our big project, I would say. We don't have any real, we're not big culvert jobs. We've got day culvert jobs, ditching here and there. I think it all is going to join in with those projects. If we're ditching in an area and there's ash trees in that area, then we'll take the ash trees. Also, it's not just for the ash trees, it's for any tree that we need to take down in a safe and efficient manner. The fact of just being able to grab a tree and move it and place it versus falling it or felling it, however you want to say it. And then when they fall, we did have to do one up on Poker Hill. It was a big popple, and we had to push it down in the field. And as soon as it hits the field, it right breaks apart, and then you're picking up all these sticks and branches and stuff to, and lugging it way back over to the ditch line, versus being able to just home and place things, is huge. Especially on the side of the road, and, there are gonna be trees that we cannot take down.
The number is about 780 that are gonna be too big.
Yeah.
So, as
And
far
they're
as,
scattered, all
so as far as to take and work with a tree company at the same time, I think will be a challenge.
over. And the tree companies won't wanna do that. My proposal, or my
We
thought,
won't want to do what? The tree companies won't-
have the town equipment mixed, intermingled
Right.
with their stuff. It's
Too much.
unsafe,
Yeah.
too much going on. My thought is to have, if we were to obtain this shear head, have our road crew go through and take out all the ones that are small enough for us to do. And then after they're done, or we're done, then we have a contractor, outside contractor, remove the rest of the trees.
I guess my question I have really, Don, is that the capacity. And I think it's piggybacking off on what Patty said, as far as the number of hours, labor hours that it's gonna take to do the project. If we know we have to do, we have this ticking time bomb, pardon the analogy, probably not very sensitive in the environment that we're in, but we have this issue before us. And we know that it's gonna take so many hours to take care of this problem if we were to hire it out.
Yeah.
And we also know, based upon projects that we have scheduled, we also have labor hours that we know that we're going to have in order to do that. So to think that we are not, there's only so many hours in a day, and these guys need to rest and go back at it the next day. They're not working 7 days a week, and they're not working, 16-hour days. Somewhere along the way, we are going to have assistance with, this tree project. This is not, in my mind, this will help, but this is not going to solve this issue all on its own.
No, and you're right, you have to consider what it would cost for salaries, hours for our own people, and wear and tear on our own equipment. That's all true and a good point, and I can't figure that out, but
We know that the road crew is gonna be involved in cutting these trees. Because we are not gonna hire out, I don't believe, we will hire out.
The
to
whole
have-
time.
To have the
Yeah.
whole town cut by contractors. I don't believe we can afford that. I don't believe, I'm not saying it's a negative, no, but I do believe that we are gonna have to take some down. And if we can take them down in a timely manner and get a larger volume of trees taken down in the same period of time, that is just gonna, and you're gonna have a piece of equipment that we can utilize for years to come.
Do we have a sort of rough life expectancy of a piece of equipment like this?
Well, when I talked to the guy, there's very few moving parts on these. There's basically the cylinders it's one side is stationary, and you have the shear, which is AR 450 steel. I think it's an inch thick, it's a shear. And then you got one arm that crushes it, or squeezes it and takes it through the
T-Rex
shear.
here.
Right.
the shear is like a big knife,
Yeah.
and it pulls the tree against the knife, and the knife goes through the stem.
That's so cool.
So then it hangs on to it, and then you can pull it, you rotate it, because it's got this one has a rotator on it. So if you picture it on the front of an excavator, you can do this with it anyways. And with this model, you can bring it and then you can do this. So you can swing it and then you can place it down.
So it should last a long time.
It should last a
Without,
long
like,
time,
it's not like
right.
there's electronics and like a lot of other stuff that, okay.
But you have to
About
sharpen the
maintenance,
knife.
Doesn't it need to be sharpened?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like
Which is
frequently.
with a grinder.
And you
Yeah.
guys would be able to do
We
that
can do
in-house?
that, just like we
Yeah.
we sharpen our mulch teeth, and there's 40 of them on that. So it's just a crushing. You don't want it real sharp anyways. You don't want it right down to a point. I was talking to him about that. It's just, it may look dull, but that's what you want it like that. But he says you can get somewhere where down the line there might be some kind of metal in a tree, but if it's like barbed wire, like we run into occasionally, it's not going to affect barbed wire.
Have we contacted the league or passive about the greater exposure risk that we would have with doing this versus not?
I think we would have less exposure problems with this.
It would be good to check on the insurance.
Yeah, I just have one quick thing, or just a couple of things, if you allow me to. I remember when we sheared Pleasant Valley Road, you were here and you were here. I believe that company came and cut all that wood for the chipwood. It was a break-even deal.
Yeah.
They went up and cut everything up there. Granted, it was a mess, if you remember. They brought grapple skidders down. They brought it all, stockpiled it on the new road. They chipped it. They did it for the wood. We put $57,000 in the budget, extra money this year for the ash tree removal. I'm not contemplating doing an operation like that, but would it make sense to try and see how far that money would last, or how far that money would go in ash tree removal versus, having this piece of equipment? What's the cost to benefit analysis having us do it versus subbing it out? Just a thought.
When you take the way I look at it, I guess you take a section of Pleasant Valley Road, you're in one section. Or like on Upper English, we did that up there with that way. You're in one section. So, and you're cutting everything. So you're dragging it all to one location where you can set up a chipper and go for it. But I think with the ash trees, you're gonna have some here, you got some here, you got some here, where it's not gonna be as self.
But we do have some areas where they're very thick and all the way through the road.
But remember the job we did on the northern end of Poker Hill, where we had that same crew cut the trees and just lay them along the road, and then Ernest Crush came with the log truck, picked up whole trees, and then drove them down to the end of Upper Irish Settlement and made a chip pile there. So we've done it differently a number of times, but with the same type of equipment and result.
Regardless of, or I guess in addition to the ash tree removal, on a regular basis, there's still just trees that need to come down, right? There's this ash project specifically that's huge, but in general, there's trees that you guys are taking down on like how regular, like kind of all the time.
Like the job we're doing right now.
Yeah.
I don't know how many trees we've cut.
Ditching, whenever you do
we're
ditching,
ditching.
you gotta take some trees down.
Okay.
Or, this can even take bunches of smaller trees too. So if you got a bank that's got all these little white birches on it, you can just take them all down, you lay them down, you feed them through the chipper, and away they go, and away we keep moving. The other thing is, we've had some windstorms in town, and they all don't just go boom. Sometimes they're like this. And we had a mess up on Upper English this year that we just couldn't even get to without getting an excavator up there to try to pull it apart, versus there was no safe way of going in with a chainsaw and just start cutting. As close as Fairfax, town of Fairfax, the guy was almost killed a couple, 3, 4, 5 years ago. DJ Leach is his name, and he got cut. The last tree section cut, and it came back and took him in the chest. And they saved him, but he's paralyzed from the chest down. So this is another option of be able to get in, grab, cut, and just pull things apart, because those do happen as well in this town. We do get some wind in this town. So it's just it's a safe way. And like Maureen just said, we have other trees throughout the town that if we can go in, cut, drop, and even eliminate a guy cutting with a chainsaw to cut these trees down is huge.
I mean,
What other towns have this kind of mechanism to remove trees?
That was my question.
I don't know of any other town, Dan, that does have this, but
I don't either.
yesterday I
It'd be a
did,
good idea to find that out.
attend the Vermont League of Cities and Towns Municipal Show in Barrie and saw many people that I know from the past and actually talked to a lot of people about that. And they were like, wow, what an awesome idea. A couple towns are like, well, we got a grapple to go on our excavator to be able to pick up trees and load them with a truck into a truck or things like that. But this will do that as well. Cut it, pick it, and so on. So there was a lot of interest. Like, wow, that's a great idea. That'd be nice. So
I believe Jericho, they don't do any tree removal, do they? They road crew.
They've changed.
Yeah.
Now that there's been a change in the road crew personnel, and they're going to start removing some of their own trees.
What about the state? Does the state have this mechanism?
There's no trees
I
along
have
the
never
state highways.
I've never seen the state using anything like this. What the state is using is DJ's Tree Service with their big Cinnabogans, which the Cinnabogans have a head on them very similar to this, but it's a bigger piece of equipment, so it can handle bigger trees.
which we have used within our town as well with DJs.
I used it in my
You know,
backyard.
the tree services do good work, and it's fast, but it's really expensive.
Mhm.
We have the one guy
But
who
we'll still need to do it.
gave us a per day price, right? That was
He's no longer.
with us now.
Yeah.
I am
Basis.
curious about the wanting to make sure insurance-wise that there would not be an extra. I agree, it seems like it's increasing safety and efficiency, but I would want to be very clear that that equipment would not increase our risk exposure, or that there is,
Is there
be something that could be covered.
consensus of the board that we could create a subcommittee, work with Russ on this, and have something more with some questions and whatnot answered and report back for our next meeting, and with the possibility of taking action then? Or are you comfortable taking action tonight?
If I could just add one more thing. So these are built in Finland. They're a 10-week lead time. And this company is holding off till our meeting tonight to place their order that's going in, not just for us, but they have to order in a bulk. So if.
And tariffs will apply.
And tariffs would apply today. But I think that's how he explained it. If tariffs are involved, I did put that down, what it would increase. But he said in 10 weeks, that may be resolved, and it may be less. So it's just, I know, but it's in there, but I don't think it would take long for us to find out how it would affect it.
I really like your idea, Bob, and I just want to throw out there, if we make this decision, I don't think it would be offsetting the tree budget. I think the tree budget needs to stay, and this is a separate on its own. This is stand on its own, because I think we're still going to need to outsource the tree service. But I agree, as Maureen said, when you're out at a job, you're grabbing trees, whether it's an ash or an elm or whatever, you're going to grab that tree and cut it. This is a more efficient way to do it. But I don't think it eliminates any of our tree budget. I think, so we have a budget problem is what I'm seeing, is that we're still gonna need to hire out tree removal, tree services, and this is not a budgeted item for next year. So we have a budget issue.
So if we do have a budget issue, and we don't take it from reserve, what's your pleasure? Wait, we either do or we don't.
Right.
And what action do you want to take? So if you want to take action to purchase this, then I need to know where it's coming, what the line item is coming from, so it's clear to everyone. If not, then there won't be a motion, and then we're going to move on.
I think, Russ, you would need to look that, find that money either in this year's budget, if you have it, or is it possible to defer something else in next year's budget?
We have money in our budget. Well, you saw how I broke it down.
Right.
So that takes $26,800 out of, if we can carry it over, because it wouldn't be here until after July 1. If we can carry over that $26,000 out of our current tree line, that is even taken into account for the trees that we voted to take down by DJs down here by the Hummel Bridge. So that takes that out of the equation. So we would have that much left over. You know, we've got 2 months left in this budget. So if we could carry over that 26, and then we've got, I had 47.5 in our budget for next year, but
I thought it was 57.
Yeah.
so if we could take part of that money,
And then that would still leave, I did the math on this, that would leave $31,300 as the fiscal year 26 remainder of what would still be left, if you, assuming that these prices are.
So the money would have, because we're not taking delivery of it in this fiscal year, right? We have to take delivery of it by July 1. If we don't take delivery of it, then it goes into the next year's budget, correct?
Yes, well, the highway reserves always go over, or any reserves always go over into the, stay in the highway budget. So highway funds, stay in the highway funds. You wouldn't know if you had a surplus or a deficit until the audit's finished. The only other thing that comes into mind is if you're going to use the tree removal fund, where I see it's relevant, this is a capital purchase, right? So, and I understand it's for tree removal, but it's just food for thought, with your voting public. But
Because it's because it would be a capital purchase, then you would have to get voter approval. Is that what you're trying to say?
no, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying it's, that line item is for tree removal, and I understand this piece of equipment is for tree removal, but is it the same? You're taking money that was set aside, whatever it is, 47, to remove trees. Now you've purchased a capital item, and those trees haven't been removed.
but if we don't have to hire a tree company.
No, I
Right, no,
understand. I'm just thinking it out. I think it's worthwhile to do, to check that out, but it's your call.
So, I'd like to end debate. I'd like to, either we're gonna move the question or we're not. About, what we're gonna do here.
There's too many questions that need to be answered to make a snap decision, it would seem. And even the deadline, from Finland, I don't like making decisions like that under pressure. It's kind of like the vacuum salesperson that comes to your door and says, "This is the last opportunity." and or the car salesman, "This is the last one in the lot." But I think that it's a valid thing to discuss, but I can't really make that kind of a decision for me.
So I think maybe then a working group to kind of get all the answers to then be able to maybe vote on this at the next meeting. Does that sound reasonable?
That's fine. If those here, if you want to form, is there somebody that would like to head that up?
We don't need another committee. You give me some questions you'd like answered, and I'm happy to do what I need to do to get the questions answered. I just think a subcommittee, it drags things on too long. We're capable of getting the questions answered that you folks may have, and I'm happy to do that. I've really tried hard to get everything together to present how we could pay for it and so on. Just really, you've seen trees being cut. You've seen these in operation. It's so much safer to take trees down. And this is a good time to purchase something with these ash trees that we have to take down, but there's also other trees that we have to take down in a safe manner. And this is a safe manner to take trees down. And it's a wonderful tool to have in our toolbox to protect.
So answer to us how it's gonna be paid for in the budget. I no doubt, I think everyone agrees with that, but how are we gonna pay for it, whether it's this budget for FY 2025 or FY 26, the upcoming budget? What line items are going to be used? I disagree it's gonna come out of the tree service. I would argue not to touch that. Maybe some dollars could come, but I think we're still gonna need tree service
There's still some left.
contractors, so
30?
I think it was 31 if it was the not tariff one, but it'd be base.
Well, we
27.
also, if money carries over, so that it wouldn't be here until after July 1. So if we can carry over and utilize money from this year's budget to
but we won't know
purchase.
that answer until September,
So I think
Until the budget's over, until the audit's
until the
over,
audit's over.
where we stand, but it can't be, you can't expend any money this fiscal year that's budgeted for fiscal year 26. Right, we're in fiscal year 25, and you have the money to work with in fiscal year 25. If the bill comes due after July 1, then you could
they might let
utilize.
you like prepay, stuff on June 30th and pay the rest after. But this
have
might be a Jennifer question on like,
We have a full contractor line that hasn't been touched,
Mm.
$50,000. We have miscellaneous contractors that are still.
Right, but you're also coming into construction season right now. You're gonna be burning through money. I think it's a budget question, how would we pay for it? And then also the insurance questions, and the other questions that came up tonight.
And I
think those
have a
main
question
ones.
about training, what would that look like? Because it's a new thing.
Do you have a sense of the questions?
Write them down for me. That would be very helpful. If you write them down.
If folks could send their questions to Russ by Friday, because it's gonna take him time to get them. It's gonna take him time to research them and then get them back to us for our next meeting in 2 weeks. So if those here could write your questions that you have and get them to Russ by Friday, close the business on Friday, he would have them Monday morning, and then he can begin to research them. And I would encourage you to, once you have all the questions, to write all the questions and send one packet with all the questions and all the answers, not piecemeal it. Just here's one final document, and then we'll have that, get that to Brad, and then that'll be in the packet for our next goal. Okay.
I was going to volunteer to be on the subcommittee that we don't need. Similarly, if there's anything I can do to help or any questions that I can take for you and get answers for, I volunteer that. Yeah.
All right. So that takes care of the tree shear purchase, if that's the consensus. Next is the Stevensville State Park request to work in the right of way. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.
I can address this if you want. So Stevensville, the parking area for the state park, there's a big culvert that's collapsed. That's kind of goes diagonal across the parking lot. The state would like to hire a contractor to replace that. And they kind of need permission. It's still town highway through there, through the parking lot. And just so you get across to the bridge that goes to the left. So that's where our town road ends. But they basically want to, replace that 2-foot corrugated metal pipe with a 4-foot squished pipe, which should give them enough cover over it. And they're requesting to do that work within the right of way. And I put this packet together for you.
So a motion to allow the state
in their contractor to work in our right of way would probably be appropriate.
I move that we allow the state to work within our right of way while replacing that culvert on Stevensville Road for the parking lot for the Mount Mansfield State Forest.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that?
Is there any expense relative to the town?
I think he did request, he said if the town was able to grade the road in advance, that would make it a little easier for the contractor's trucks, but I don't know the shape it's in up there, the Stevensville.
Last I checked about a week and a half ago, it was wet.
It is wet, still, yeah, it's a wet,
Now-
and I don't think they're gonna do this until, like you said, when they're ready to do it.
July 4th weekend?
No. But some of it, it's just the right of way part, and then the rest of it, the outfall and all that stuff is on their property. So, no expense, but he did just ask, if it was, if it's possible to grade it ahead of time, that would be great.
Okay.
We're gonna try to have both those Mountain Road and Stevensville by prior to Memorial Day weekend.
Any further discussion? Ready for the questions? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next is the 26 Irish Settlement landscape issue. You have received the complaint that we received back in the fall. It's in the packet. Brad also had a hard copy prepared. We did do a site visit before we opened this meeting. So everyone was able to get kind of a bird's eye view and ground side view of the whole area. So here we are.
I did include the minutes from when we had the presentation back in November in the packet too.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for pulling that all together. It's helpful to have it all in one place here.
So I'll start. So just for clarification, the right of way that we have as a town is from the center line of the road? It's a question.
Center line of the road, and it would be 24.75 roughly from the center line.
Okay.
Depending where yes, that's a safe assumption,
Okay. And I just want to make a comment. It's clear that the homeowner, Sandra, cares deeply about her property, is passionate about the vegetation and the plants. At the same time, we as a town have to maintain roadways in the right-of-way structure the way it works. I came from the electric industry background, and doing work to maintain our wires and poles in the right-of-way was similar to this. And my understanding is we have the ability to maintain within the right-of-way based on our protocols relative to road work. I'm not degrading Sandra's work on her property. She's done a tremendous job, but we have to maintain the roadways, and our fiduciary responsibility is to do best practices when we upgrade, whether it's a culvert, a road, the material on the side. It is the best practice at the current time of when we do that upgrade. And everything that I saw relative to the work that we did is that it is in compliance with current practices. I didn't see anything weird or abnormal. And Brad, I'm going to ask you the question relative to the boundary of the property in terms of the property owner owns to what point relative to the right of way. Can you answer
so
that
we can
question?
just say approximately 25 feet from the center inward to the property.
Okay.
And that's the right-of-way line. Sandra's deed clearly references a survey that depicts that line. Sometimes you'll see the grantor put language in the deed that says, I quitclaim any interest to the center line of the road that I may have. that's not in Sandra's deed. So it's clear that what she purchased was what the survey was, and I think I may have included a copy of that to you.
So the purchase is up to the right of way?
To the right of way line.
To the right of way.
And so if it's 25 feet, the road include both sides is 50 feet,
49.5, yes.
49 and a half.
3 rods. I did copy the little snippet out of the road ordinance that references basically trees and shrubs. The placement or removal of roadside growth, plantings, and brush is governed by 19 VSA 901 through 906. And then basically 901 says removal of roadside growth. A person other than an abutting property owner or municipality shall not cut or trim or remove. So basically that says, you know, the public isn't allowed to come by and cut your roadside trees. Shall not cut, trim, remove, or otherwise damage any grasses, shrubs, vines, or trees growing within the limits of the town highway without first obtaining consent of the legislative body. So the legislative body, in my opinion, is under control. You know, you have this right of way, and while there may be certain situations where we don't own it, we have encumbered use of it. So I added that in here. It's right underneath your statutes, right underneath there. And it's too bad Dom Toby didn't stick around because it kind of relates to his wheelhouse with being the tree warden. So it used to be years ago, shade trees were very popular. You know, the roads were all lined with huge elms, and so there was a lot of statute in regards to shade trees, and that's kind of the tree warden's responsibility is to no one can remove large shade trees without prior approval of the tree warden. So that's kind of an old statute. But when it comes to brush, and it also says here in our road ordinance, work within rights of ways, damage or objects of obstruction in the town right of way, objects placed in the town right of way included but not limited to mailboxes, fencing, garden supply, recreational equipment, any structure is placed at the owner's risk. The town assumes no responsibility for damage, such as including mailboxes, damage by snow removal. And then it goes on to section D, trees and shrubs, and that's where it refers to the statute. So it's in our highway ordinance, and our highway ordinance refers to the statute. And, that's what we have.
I did not get the sense that the work that was performed was outside of the town's right of way.
I would agree with that, and I did include the street view
with
photos.
it too. That, to me, the right of way is not an issue here. It's
Okay.
it's a non-issue.
Okay.
It's a non-issue. The issue is, I was told one thing, another thing happened, on several points. And two, I was perfectly willing to relocate at my own expense the shrubs that Russell didn't want there.
So, Ms. Kelsey, I'm gonna ask the board, because this is, we're not necessarily taking testimony at this time.
Okay.
We're deliberating. I can ask the board if they would like to open this up to receive more testimony from you, but we received we received a written complaint. We've done our site visit. This is the time for the board to deliberate on this. And we can certainly entertain the idea of taking additional testimony, but that would be the purview of the board. So if you would like to have Ms. Costas engage with the board as we deliberate, or if you'd like to take testimony and you have questions that you'd like to ask her, that's fine, but we need to establish that. If I'm not hearing that you'd like to have Ms. Costas would be out of order because this is the select board's meeting to deliberate this issue. And we can continue to deliberate. If we come to a point, if Ms. Costas is still here, or we can invite her to additional meetings to receive additional testimony while we deliberate, that's also a possibility. But we are here to meet as a board to discuss this issue with all due respect to all the parties.
What is the specific decision that we're making in order to put this to bed? I mean, we can, identify emotions,
well, we got
about it. I have certain emotions about it. I'll just say briefly, I had walked by this property, long before the road was redone, and I had two things. I admired the property, all the care that was, and that was one thing. I said, boy, this is really beautiful. My second thing is, boy, this is really close to the road, though. Because I know that in the future, some maintenance might need to be done. And I was, kind of regretting, not personally, but, that something might come about, which it did. Because redoing a road like that is not an easy project. And it kind of demands, that's why they have such things as right-of-ways.
Correct.
Would you say?
Yeah, and we do have, back to your first question, Dan, so in Sandra's initial letter, at the end here, it says, there are 3 points.
Solutions.
Yeah.
4 on the next, the 4th is on the next
last
page.
Right.
Yep.
So those, I
That,
guess.
to me, that seems like what we need to address at
Right.
this
I
meeting
would say so.
and make a decision.
So the specific requests are that the homeowner would like the soil that was removed from the bank put back, and the daylilies in ground cover replanted by using proper best practices, including and not limited to the use of landscaping cloth, netting, and mulch, not wrap. I would like to have an agreement in writing with the town, see the attached. Number 2, would like to have the stump that was thrown over the bank removed. Number 3, would like the spruce tree and the willow replanted that were tossed over the bank for the homeowner to deal with. And request a solution for the culvert near the end of solution for the culvert near the front of the house. I think that was where there was the exposure of the new metal pipe that felt that there was too much of that exposure of the culvert that was not in keeping with, that's what I took away, was not in keeping with what the aesthetics were before. So those look like, also take issue with the amount of, that's the culvert. So 4 things. So I guess, we could take them one bite at a time, if you wish, and can kind of go from there of, what you would like to do. You want to start with number 1? Number 1 issue is to address the soil that was removed and put back, the daylilies ground cover replanted and by using best practices. What is your pleasure with that?
So I don't think that we can replant the daylilies within the right of way, because we're just contributing to an existing problem. We're gonna need to maintain that space, and replanting within the right of way is a problem in my mindset. If something happens to those plants, who's at risk? I'm worried about establishing a precedent that we're gonna put plants in the right of way, that if we have to come back and do more work, we just wipe out all that material or the plants, we have to replace that, but it's within our right of way.
I hear what you're saying, and
I'm
I
saying it very
hear,
articulately.
no, you are, that, like, not only is it undoing work, but is it possibly causing us a future problem?
Exactly.
When there may need to be new work. At the same time, I wonder if there's a solution somewhat in the middle, such as if we choose to grant some of these requests, could we replace compost and soil and a pile that is missing, may or may not include with that some landscaping cloth, so that the property owner could make choices about what to do. I heard in our tour that there was a pile of compost that is not there anymore. So that the town is not planting things in our right of way that made me think, but if the homeowner makes that choice.
I'm just gonna pause this for just a second. Brad, is it wise for the town to deliberate this in open session, or would it be wise to deliberate this in closed session?
I'm happy to leave.
You would have to first determine that by talking about this at open session, that it would put the town at a substantial disadvantage. I would consider it an open discussion. However, if you feel there's possibly some legal ramification, that may be different, but that's the determination you need to make. If by having this discussion puts the town at a disadvantage or not. I would say no.
Yeah.
If that's a consensus of the group, that we can continue on. I just want to make sure that I'm trying to be mindful. Okay, so are we done with question number 1? And the action steps that we're willing to take?
I'd really like to just say.
Ms. Kelsey, we're not taking testimony at this time. This is deliberation of the board. Thank you.
Well, I'm not.
Ms.
wanting to
Magosas,
give
you're out of order, and you're not allowed to speak during this time.
Thank you.
I am similarly concerned of thinking about creating a precedent on trying to rebuild a slope, and I can sympathize that the homeowner, that used to be able to plant things along this slope, but unfortunately, like, there is a slope and the material is what it is. I could see if I could get to the point where I agree with, like, we can see if there's a drop off a load of dirt that she can use, or if there's rocks that we have available that she can try and do some retainment work on. But I don't know that I feel that we can do the full of number 1. I just don't think that's.
So we have had a couple situations, just for background. One was on Corbett Road, I believe. One was on North Underhill Station since I've been here. Those involved trees that were removed outside the right of way. So there was compensation given, or compensation in the with trees, I think, replanting of trees. So
But that was outside.
That was outside of the right of way. Yes.
This appears to be well within inside the town's right of way.
Yes.
The areas of which we are discussing.
Yes.
There was no material removed from that area. Because there was such a bank there, we had to extend the side of the road to get a full shoulder. So because of that, such a steep slope there, there had to be, this wasn't like it was on the side of a meadow, right? We had to add more material to get the shoulder to be able to stay there.
This clearly shows the shoulder like I saw. The difference being that it's, this is probably a gravel shoulder with grass growing over it versus putting the wrap material on the edge of the shoulder.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we can move this down.
What,
I think we can just like help her with that, but if that's.
meaning this?
I think that's.
So she,
that was.
she said there was some sort of bush that was thrown on the side, and then there's a part of a tree.
Yeah.
Those two.
And then there was along the bank towards the where you and I walked down part. There was like kind of the root ball.
This
one.
Oh no!
I think it was. I don't know if you took a picture of that.
Is that on a separate line, Bob?
Yeah, down there, that one.
That wasn't.
I think
That
that
wasn't listed. The list, what was listed was the soil on the bank.
I
Where
think
the
2 and
lilies
3
were.
are the spruce and the
Yeah, exactly.
The spruce tree.
The spruce tree was listed in the willow.
And the spruce tree and the willow were also within the right of way. Am I?
Are those what she showed you first?
I
by
think
the culvert?
So. Yes.
And I took a
Yeah.
picture of those.
So
I can show you, Russ.
yeah, I know there were some trees by the original culvert
These two.
that
They're pieces that, one is a small bush, and one is like a branch of a.
There was a willow and a spruce. So we saw the dead spruce
Yes.
laid over
Yeah.
and saw the willow tree.
So if those, I
think
don't remember the spruce tree. I do remember the willow tree because she claimed that it. Maybe Gardner Dan can help with this too, but it helps absorb water because it drinks a lot of water and being in that wet area. I think that's why she planted that there, which she said she wants that tree. So we did scoop that out, set it aside, but we weren't going to replant a willow tree by a culvert. So we can't put a tree back around this culvert. It just doesn't make any sense for doing that. So we said we would dig it up for her and set it aside.
Yeah, I would not like to have our staff go back and do any specific work if that's what this board wanted it to have done, because I just think that invites more trouble and difficulty. And I'm wondering if there's a good faith offering we could make. So if she wants to get some of these pieces removed, she can hire somebody. If she wants to load of dirt.
Could I just make a suggestion, if I were in your shoes, possibly, that this is it's a sensitive situation, and I think a lot of effort's gone into it by Ms. Costas to bring this to you. I would suggest maybe the purchase of a spruce tree and a willow, small willow. So we did that with Carl New. We bought them in Eden. They were $30, $40 a piece.
My concern is if it's not up to her specifications, and then we get into a dispute about.
Well, she could pick them out if she would like. This is just I'm throwing it out there as a possible solution. And then if she wants to get the stump, I'll go down there and grab it myself. I can lug it right over the bank and bring it out, and I'll throw it in the back of my truck. Same with that other piece of.
I'm concerned about.
We didn't do it.
But I'm concerned about that leads to the next.
Yeah. Well, the tree offering may be good enough.
I would propose we make a monetary offering, good faith, we're not admitting any wrongdoing, but we make a monetary offering she can use it for soil, for trees, but it needs to be hired out by her, so it's done to her specifications, and there's no miscommunication issues with the town staff.
I resonate to that.
So long as nothing's planted in the right of way.
Exactly, that needs to be part of it, that she can't replant within the right of way. I don't know what the amount should be.
Mm-hmm.
What would be a good, reasonable?
Do we have budget for items like this? Would this just fall under like miscellaneous
Contingent,
select board?
select board
Just discretionary.
But I would reiterate Russ's fact, and I'm gonna speak up for them. And this is no admit of wrongdoing because nothing was done, but this is just a good faith effort to try and mediate the situation.
Exactly, and whatever offer we would make to her would state that in the letter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can we agree that we would, replace the 2 trees in the amount not to exceed a certain dollar amount? And if we find that just using a local, creative landscaping or whatever, whoever you want to use, I'm just thinking of someone local, if we were to say, how much would it cost for, a tree and then to plant it, and the 2 types of trees that we're talking about here, is a $500 reasonable? Is $200? I don't know. I haven't purchased a spruce tree or a willow tree, so I don't know what that would run. And then for them to plant it. Are we talking about just the tree and then delivering it, or are we talking about having someone plant the tree outside the right of way?
I would leave that to her to make that decision.
That it would be at her discretion for how to, I agree. I think even just set the monetary fund that she can use as she would like to.
That way she could
purchase
get
the
the size of the
or
tree that you would want.
dirt or whatever it may
If she would want
be.
to add money to it and put something bigger.
And it's not.
And the choice of who to plant it. Sometimes landscaping companies, they're pricey, but they do guarantee it.
Well,
I'm gonna throw out a $500 value, and just trying to be reasonable to the town and to her.
And Brad, you think you could draft a letter and explain this?
Yeah, I guess
as delicately as possible.
Yes, I think
I'm not trying to add.
No, I've already got it drafted in my head. So, if you'd like, I could have that letter prepared for next select board meeting. Does that make sense for approval?
Could we just
Or just delegate me to do it?
I think so too. Yeah, I think that's fine. And,
I have faith in your abilities.
She has created a beautiful space there.
Exactly.
And clearly does have a lot of pride and care for that property, and it is beautiful to see from the roadway. But also quite a bit of the work, unfortunately, is within the town's right of way, and there is just limits to what we are able to do.
Do we want to do this by consensus, or do we want to vote on this?
If we're doing money, we should vote.
So the motion is going to be.
I'll make the motion.
But before we have a motion on this, we haven't talked about number 4.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, the culvert.
The culvert, and just so maybe we can only have one motion and wrap this up.
Sure.
I'm of the opinion that we should not, that the culvert is the way it is, and it's fine.
It will age over time.
Yeah.
And blend in. That's not to say that you couldn't plant lilies.
No, you don't
No,
plant
well,
anything
no,
on
I'm just saying, if you wanted to, if lilies magically grew up around the culvert, it's not gonna
My
interfere with
culvert has a lot of stuff growing around it. You
But-
better take a
I'm
look
not
at
saying
that.
obstruct the culvert, but
Monday you will see it.
And I'll show you someplace else too.
But in particular, when we walked further down, and there's the culvert that's more across from Pine Ridge, to me, they didn't look that different. I know that culvert isn't,
well, they're
she's
both
saying,
new.
yeah.
They're both new.
yeah, but she's saying that hers is especially unsightly, and I didn't see it looking significantly different than the one next.
Would it be reasonable to think that if we had placed more earth, meaning stone, on top of that, so it didn't look like a Coke can sticking out of the road, You know, because it's a shiny, you know, shiny piece of metal. It's a culvert, right? You know, if you made it look natural, you know, I think that I don't know if that would be aesthetically pleasing to. It's her property, so it's hard for me to say like that would be okay. But that would be okay.
If she wants to paint it.
But I didn't know if, you know, if you can't put vegetation on it, could we offer to put rock on it?
That would take a lot of rock. So the reason that probably shows a little more than some of the others is because the culvert's 40 feet long. So because the bank is so steep and where the culvert has to lay in water to land, you would have to take a lot of stone to build that way out. And you know,
no, thank you.
Yeah.
You do it all the time.
If she wanted to paint it, she could paint it.
I could say that in my letter.
She wants to paint it black, paint it green, paint it like a candy cane. I don't care. But I don't want trees growing around it. I don't want lilies planted around it. That stuff grows all by itself. That just
No, and that's a lot of rock work around it is. But
So we've addressed all 4 of the bullet points.
thank you, Shara.
Yeah.
Are you ready to make a motion now?
Yep. I move that we authorize Brad to send her a letter and offer to pay $500 for just $500.
$500 to use as she pleases, so long as nothing's planted within the right of way.
And we admit no wrongdoing.
We admit no wrongdoing,
Of our highway
and
staff.
she's welcome to paint the culvert if she'd like.
Yes, that's the motion.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed with a nay. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. I'm gonna request, because I know Amy, and she has been so kind to wait patiently in the back. If we could move up the Tomasi Meadow, we are about an hour outside of our regular schedule here. If we could move Amy up with the Tomasi Meadow in front of the Memorial Day Parade, if there's no objection, can we do that, Brad?
No objection.
Sure.
Thank you, Russ.
You don't need me for that.
Unless you want to be here. I don't think there's anything left on here. I don't think that Russ wouldn't be needed for 12 Dumas Road, right?
No.
Brad?
No.
No, I think you're ready to.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Russ.
Thank you, Russ.
Thanks.
Good night.
Amy, Karen?
Where would you like?
Wherever you like.
Why don't you pull up a chair here or two?
Sorry it took us so long. We had a field trip and all kinds of stuff, so we've been a little behind schedule, so.
Certainly looks like a packed agenda.
Thank you. Thanks for your patience.
So, you're here to talk to us about the Tomasi Meadow and Casey Sells Re-vegetation proposal.
Yes, I propose to,
Can you introduce yourself?
I'm sorry.
yes, I'm Amy Gallaudet.
Okay.
I'm here with Karen and Trinity from the Conservation Commission. And when the Casey's Hill parking lot was expanded, I realized there was an opportunity there to add ecological value and recreational value and aesthetic value if we were to put down a native plants mix that's designed especially for sites like that where there's bare soil and some slope, so that along the drainage there that comes out from the new culvert under the parking lot could grow up to outcompete, I hope, invasive plants like knapweed, which are in the meadow there. Prevent knotweed from creeping in. There was some along the edges of the old parking lot. I'm guessing it's still there. Improve the habitat there for all the birds and insects that use the the meadow and for the people who can look at it and see a beautiful native planting there. So I propose to spread a seed mix it's about a third of an acre where there's a lot of bare soil along the stream below the culvert. We need to do that really soon this spring. And add some shrubs around the base of the culvert as part of that habitat. Alder, willow, gray dogwood are all suitable and they're present on the other side of Mountain Road there. And it'll take 2 or 3 years to really see results. We need to keep foot traffic off of the seed mix area for this first season.
And I would like to add that Trinity is here to do the other half of the presentation. It has to do with the monarch butterfly.
That wasn't included in the
It
packet,
wasn't.
so you may want to preface this whole conversation with, or go ahead, Trinity. So.
Well, along the lines of Amy's suggestions in terms of improving the aesthetic quality of the Casey's Hill area, specifically to the parking area. When the parking area was expanded, I also saw an opportunity to add in some pollinator seeds that would both beautify the area, the slopes around the parking area, and improve it as an attractive habitat for all variety of pollinators, specifically monarchs. We are in a monarch migratory zone and are really fortunate to have the super monarchs that make the final journey all the way to Mexico. So if we were to plant the slopes around the parking area, it's an ideal habitat for the monarch population and would be really accessible because of the parking lot for all variety of public here in Underhill to be able to come and interact with those species firsthand up close as that area grows up with nectarine plants and milkweed that would really invite all variety of birds and insects and bees, particularly monarchs, into the area.
Are these two separate? Are we talking about the same area? Are we talking about spreading local wildflower and pollinator inviting plants?
So they were both separate ideas, but they came together at the same time.
Okay.
And so we're treating it as sort of the same effort. And
Makes sense to do it at the same time.
right, and Amy's drawing here depicts the area I'm looking at specifically as the sloped area around the parking area. But Amy's looking at the rest. So it kind of goes hand in hand.
Is this a Conservation Commission endeavor?
Yes, it is, and we have money in our budget for
So that's what.
we're not asking for money, but we'd like to spend it before June 30th.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
I think that that's a wonderful idea. And I know that way back when we acquired Meadow, we were talking about having a transition for part or all of it, but I think part moving from having it mowed once a year for hay to having it become a meadow. And there has to be some prep work, to do that meadow work. And I remember we had this project that didn't come off. Was it some outside source going to come in?
Yes.
But that never happened.
They had enough of other places to do the project.
And they were gonna pay for it even.
Yeah.
And we had picked out a spot, kind of like the top of the hill.
Yeah.
But I think that, where is that? The transition from having it mowed to You know, I know that hay needs to have fertilizer to continue to have it good. And we didn't want to have that. We didn't want to have manure spread all over the meadow for people to walk on. But what's the Conservation Commission thinking about that?
Thinking about, you mean expanding it?
No, about that, you remember that plan where we were gonna stop mowing it and having it?
Well, this is kind of part of that. This would be a part of that.
This
They're
is a
taking
step.
A
It's a
step to
step
doing
towards
that.
it, yeah.
However, I just have one quick thing, an understanding that as soon as all the monarchs are gone and the vegetation has died off and gone to seed, you would still envision this being mowed once a year.
Oh, the mix I'm talking about is perennial, so, it would be growing back every year, wouldn't need mowing, along that stream where.
Right,
Yeah.
but don't you think it would help propagate? Like I don't mow my big sections of my meadow, and it grows beautifully, but it even takes off even better after you've mowed it, after all the butterflies are gone. I'm saying
Yeah,
late October.
Burning is really even better.
So there are arguments for both sides. One of the arguments is to let it stand because those empty reeds become habitat for the insects to overwinter inside of. Right. So if we're cutting them down, then we're preventing that insect population from recovering for the next year. Not the monarchs, of course, but other insects.
I'll ask the people who make this particular seed mix if they recommend mowing at some interval.
Yeah, I'm just curious because what we don't want to happen is trees to start to grow inside it,
right.
And then soon they get very large.
Right.
But it's just I've had great luck with, and I understand what you're saying. I didn't realize the insects kind of overwinter in that dry stuff.
Yeah.
You can place for the ticks to be.
They're here anyway.
They're here.
But the birds. The ticks are really enjoying the invasive species like buckthorn and honeysuckle.
So in looking at, I appreciate the diagram you put, but my sense of scale is hard to, I'm not great. So I was looking at like this overview map of, if you're ever looking at like so how much are you envisioning including in what you're talking about?
Inside the dotted line is about 1/3 of an acre for the seed mix.
Okay.
That's a good picture to look at.
Yeah,
You
as we say, the photo.
see the,
Oh, I didn't see
so
this
see
one.
the,
Okay.
it's in the packet.
Scrolling.
Okay.
And there's also a footbridge Amy noted here. If you've
Okay.
seen that.
Yeah.
Have you been to Tomasi Meadow
Yeah.
recently? You can see it pretty clearly.
That's right. And actually the new footbridge looks great. Okay, so it's like about to where the, okay.
Great.
Thank you.
It's not in there?
I didn't see this one with the dog, but.
Oh, this is not there.
I put it in there for sure.
Yeah, it's.
Okay.
So action steps that need to be taken would be to approve this proposal.
I move that we approve the proposal for the planting of the seeds and the shrubs.
Second that.
There's been a motion and it's been seconded. Is there any discussion?
We should probably also add, because the Conservation Commission, it's their money, but they're coming for permission to spend it. If we authorize the spending of their money to do that.
So noted in the motion.
Oh, thumbs up.
I think this is a great idea.
Me too.
And it's gonna really add to like a lot of the aesthetic appeal and enjoyment of people using the meadow and just driving by it and on the way to State Park or.
Have you ever
waiting for
seen
the school
those
bus, whatever it might be.
kind of shoes you can put on that are like kind of mud platforms, almost like a snowshoe, right? Because you're gonna go and you're gonna wanna broadcast this seed, but it's really soft and you don't wanna damage it. But even putting on like a big pair of old wooden snowshoes or something to keep above the mud.
Those seeds in good contact with the soil, so there's some tamping down that's needed.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. We'll put some signs up that will explain what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that's great. Education is good.
How quickly can you do it? Can you start putting seeds down?
Oh, I think Saturday.
It'll be
I think it's
really
gonna rain
wet
too hard
Saturday.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
I want it good and wet,
Give it
but not.
Not this way.
It's gonna be so warm next week. Oh,
When you talk about tamping down, I think about MMU's Community Service Day. And that could be a good activity for an advisory group.
Okay.
Well, actually, we talked to the person that I think is organizing it at MFU, and he told me that all the projects were filled.
Okay.
They didn't have enough students to go. We asked them to come to Cranbrook again, and they loved it last year, but.
You could probably take like a piece of plywood and like cut out an oval and then just like screw a couple straps, rubber straps to it and put your foot in there. Just a thought.
Are you offering to do this?
Oh, no, I'd make a prototype if you'd like. I'd make a prototype.
Sorry.
So that
And a motion.
motion on the
on
floor, it's been seconded, and we are authorizing, in the motion, we're authorizing the Conservation Commission to utilize their funds for this project. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
right.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. So now you can say thank you, and I can say you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your work on the conservation committee. Thank you.
Thank you also. for
Yeah, we
your
look
patience.
forward to the
Yeah.
project. It sounds great.
Perseverance is awesome.
All right. So the next, the Memorial Day Parade.
Please come.
Closure. Hi, how are you?
Thank you for your patience.
More patience.
That problem. Sorry, I told Dan to come early because we might be ahead of schedule, but
I didn't realize that you were here for the Memorial Day, or I wouldn't have played leapfrog. I apologize for that.
These things happen.
Okay.
I have 2 kids, so this is the most quiet.
We'll invite you to the next meeting if you want to come back.
So I don't want to take up too much of your time, but in the packet, as you know, Richard Becker passed away this past year.
and you want to introduce yourself.
Oh, hi, I'm Dan O'Neill. I'm from Mount Mansfield Masonic Lodge in Jericho, but obviously Underhill as well. And after Richard passed, we kind of didn't know what was going to happen with the parade. And then a couple of weeks ago, the hot potato got thrown our way, and here we go. So here I am putting it together. So I appreciate the help I've gotten. But we're going to generally follow the same road plan as in years past, which will start at Browns River Middle School, go up Park Street, down to Route 15, and then, and then end at Veterans Park. And so the asks that we have are the road closures. I am appearing before Jericho's select board next week to request the exact same thing. So we just have 4 basic asks. For the road closures, what I got in the bundle of handwritten notes that was that a request for the sound system. We have to speak to Grant Allendorf, Super Sounds, and I think the request was for $200 to pay for the rental of the audio equipment. The third is I'd like to coordinate. I actually do not live in Underhill or Jericho. I actually live in Essex, but I'm picking it up. So any support we can get for contact with organizations so I can call them up and say, hey, can you be down here on this day? Would be greatly appreciated. And then the last thing is going to leave some flyers behind to put up here.
Flyers for the parade?
Yes. Like inviting veterans and then advertising that it's happening.
Richard would do this, but he'd kind of handwrite it out and put it up on the board.
So what I just heard you believe you say is that you're looking for permission to close the roads in the town of Underhill. You're looking for monetary funds for the sound system and permission to hang the signs. So I think the signs is probably the easiest one. I think that's fine. I think that can be handled by consensus. I think the road closure is more formal, that we would probably need to take a motion and do that. And then the last, as far as the monetary, I believe if you were to ask the fire department that they have a sound system, that would not cost you anything. If that was to fail, we can make a contingent offer that we would split the cost possibly with the town of Jericho, if you were not successful. And if it all else fails, then we would, I would hope that we would shoulder the burden and take care of it all ourselves. But I would think that if we could do it in that order, if we could, ask the fire department for the use of their sound system that they have, and if that doesn't work, too, we would ask that you request, splitting the cost 50-50 with the town of Jericho. And if they say no, then, we would then take on the responsibility ourselves. So I'm going to move, seeing as how I just spent a lot of time talking about that and thinking on the fly. That will be the motion that I make, is that the town of Underhill would request that you talk with the fire department. If that fails, we would agree to spend up to the $100, and then if that fails, then we would shoulder the whole load for $200. So that's my motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to add a quick thing. So we do have a line item in the budget for this Memorial Day
Parade from
fund.
Perfect.
So it usually takes care of the flags and the parade. I'm going to give you contact for the fire department.
Sweet.
Okay.
Ready for the question? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And the last piece is to close the roads on the town of Underhill during the Memorial Day Parade, starting at 11 o'clock and then ending at the conclusion of the parade, or the end of the service. Not sure if it's service or the...
I included the minutes from last time, and I think Patty had just requested that we make it
Saying it
known.
was closed from 11 to 12 on Memorial Day, and is what the note said from previous years.
Okay.
So this is the proposal
Is to be
for
closed.
this year, and
Okay.
this is the notes from last year's meeting regarding closure.
Someone want to make a motion for that?
Closed from 11 to 2 is the whole thing. So, well, there's two different parts. I see. I move that we allow for the Memorial Day parade to take place on Monday, May 26th, with the request for the roads to be closed on from River Road from Park Street to VT Route 15, closed from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then I move that the River Road to Vermont 15 would be closed from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m.
I'll second that.
Did I cover that right?
Sounded beautiful. Said moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. So I think we got everything.
Yes, the only thing is Brad knows how to get in touch with me. Just if you can think of an organization or as of right now, ceremony, we're reaching out to the Air Guard to provide a keynote speaker. We're looking at the Underhill, United Church of Underhill to do the invocation. And MMU band is already, I spoke to the director and she told me, don't worry, I got you for the
Okay.
parade and the national anthem and the scouts for flag raising. So just any other, I'm kind of.
But isn't the Hannaford fife and drum?
I don't know if they're committed to Essex that weekend, but I tried to get the Shriners to do the little cars, but they're booked for Milton. But I know who to contact now, so I know how to get them early next year.
I think Little League teams.
Yes, actually, I work with one of the coaches, and my son. I got to witness my son's team get beat over there. So, but I accosted him in the break room at work today. So I'll be working on that.
Very good.
So we're trying to work, but if anyone has an idea, I'd appreciate any.
And
The dancers.
And the Springfields are in the vault.
Okay, great.
With the blanks. The rentals.
It's that lawnmower group.
Yes. Brad can talk to you offline about any of the other nuances as far as the parade is concerned.
Yep, totally.
And the-
But thank you.
The local Cub Scouts just did a cleanup project on that park just this past
I
weekend.
actually saw my way through because it was laid out. It looked beautiful.
And,
I was there with them helping do it.
Yeah, you just
Pierce,
need
it was
one.
Pierce's scout
And
that did it, so.
Nice.
That's just to tell vets show up with your finery. I actually was the keynote 2 years ago, and I found out I still fit in my old dress blues from when I was in the Marine Corps years ago. So I was, my wife was pretty thrilled. We have a photo because she and I were not married when I got out, and so she was like, I finally got a photo. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for taking over the
Thank
parade.
you for your
Appreciate it.
service.
Thank you.
All right, so consider the planning commission appointment. We received a letter from Brian. It's Tijan, right? Am I spelling that? Tijan? Tijan. About the vacancy, and they're meeting on the 1st. The planning commission recommended to the select board that it appoint T. Zachary Drawbrough and Jen Dale and Tavid Bingham to the open positions on the Underhill Planning Commission. Their letters of interest were attached. I'm going to move that we appoint all three as presented in the memo from Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of the appointment of the folks listed in the memo, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next.
Dissolution.
Dissolution of the Natural Resources Inventory Mapping Committee. We got a letter from Penny regarding that. Do you want to do that by consensus, or do we need to have?
No, I think a motion, their work is done. I'd say they were pretty dedicated. They got us through the mapping inventory that Arrowwood Environmental did. Kind of set the stage for future planning with the Planning Commission. And it would be nice to just read the committee members' names. And if you'd like me to, I could, or Bob want to.
No, I think they're on here. I'm just trying to pull it up. Here we go. So, gonna move that we remove the Natural Resources Inventory Mapping Committee, of which the committee members who helped us with that are Amy Golditz, Patrick Lampier, Karen McKnight, Penny Miller, Ryan Oakes, Valerie Story, and Sandy Wilmot. Can we send them a letter? Just thanking them?
Or some of them live out of state now, but I could certainly.
Or an email or whatever.
Yeah, I could send an email out, thank them all.
Thank them for their work.
I think the proper way, we're just going to dissolve the committee.
Yep. So motion on the floor to resolve it and to thank those that served. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I just really appreciate their work and I'm very impressed by the final projects and presentation that they shared back to the town. So thank them very much.
Well said.
Anything else? Hearing none, you're ready for the question? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next is 12 Dumas Road.
So I'll just give you a quick update where we're at. So I got the asbestos survey results back, and we do have asbestos siding on the north wall. I frantically reached out to a bunch of contractors, so I'm hopeful that we're going to stay on schedule for that removal. It's called a Section 6 material, which is probably the most benign material of the asbestos. And it's big, wide clapboards that come off fairly easily. So it's probably no more than a day job and disposal. So we have to, of course, you have to reach out to certified asbestos people that are licensed to remove that. And then there's licensed workers, and then there's also licensed supervisors. So all the people I'm doing, then they'll basically give us a report and where the material went to the proper site. So most likely get into one of their dumpsters that they have that eventually goes up to Maine or Ohio. So anyway, that's that. But in driving by the other day, I looked and the grass is growing, and the grass is starting to get fairly high on the lot. And given the fact that it's in a residential neighborhood, I think it's important for us to keep that lot. While we can't do anything with it, but I would think it's important for us to keep mowing it. Eventually, when the house is gone, the turnaround area is going to be improved for the highway crew so they can turn around there, since that's a town highway. But also in the event of a flood, we want to be able to have access to that bank, because we've sandbagged that bank many times. And it's just a very, very slight dip. And by sandbagging, I remember it was several years ago, but I think, between the fire department and myself, we saved that Meadow Lane from getting flooded. So it's just, I think since given where it is, it'd be a shame to see it all grow up to tall grass. We currently hire Alphase that does our lawns. So they mow the sidewalk currently right to the property.
Okay, so
right?
really easy.
So they could just, I would like to see that, at least for this summer, or until we figure out a game plan, how we're gonna, what we might possibly envision that property looking like, that we continue to mow it as the sidewalks mow.
No sense as far as what that would cost.
I can't imagine it would be more than an extra $50 to $70 additional. It's a small lawn.
The fact that they're already there.
Right.
On the side, mowing along the sidewalk right to there. It's not like up to deploy a new site.
Why do they mow the sidewalk?
Because that was part of the agreement with the V-Trans. It's our sidewalk to maintain.
We can blow the grass clippings somewhere.
But anyway, I would like to see it, because I just think it would behoove the town to keep it looking good. And you're going to do demolition. I tore this house down over here 20 some odd years ago that used to sit in the parking lot. And the first thing I did was go in and mow the lawn. It was this high. The last thing you want is to have all this grass growing and debris and everywhere, and it gets left behind. You can't see, so you start with a clean plate, you're going to leave with something clean.
So you need a motion, Brad,
Need a motion.
to authorize you to modify the mowing contract to include mowing 12 Dumas Road?
Yes. And again, like I say, this is just for this year. And
motion made, seconded. Is there any discussion? No need to cut you off, Brad, but we're behind
No.
schedule.
I know.
Love you, but I don't get it.
I know.
Everybody's good?
Yep.
All those in favor of expanding the mowing bid to include 12 Dumas Road, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Closing comment period. There's no one here. I don't see anyone in the virtual environment other than Donna. Thank you, Donna, for being here. You definitely earned your pay tonight. Review and approve warrants and minutes from the April 24th regular meeting.
I think the minutes I might have switched it up and the minutes might have been in your packet first.
Right.
Usually have it after, but.
Okay, so I got minutes here. Motion to accept the select board meeting minutes for the April 24th. I move that we accept the meeting minutes as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes for the 24th of April, please signify by saying aye.
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 I'll abstain.
Okay, so Bob Stone, yes.
Patty Richards, yes.
Maureen Collins Cole, yes.
Dan Steinbauer, yes.
And Shara will
Abstain.
abstain. So motion carries 4-0-1. And that's the Brad. Next, approve the warrants dated 5/5/2025. Is there, I move that we accept those or approve those. Move that we approve the warrants for the 5th of May, dated 5/5/2025.
Second.
And seconded by Patty. Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the warrants for 5/5/25, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. The next is to approve the auto pay dated 4/28/2025. I move that we accept that as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the auto pay warrants dated 4/28/2025, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And last, the payroll warrant dated 5/5/2025. I will move that we approve that. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Maureen with a clutch hit. Patty, you were sleeping.
I paused, so I'm gonna get a time to second.
Maureen was ready. Don't worry. She's right there.
I'm ready.
Any discussion on the payroll? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the payroll, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. I don't think there's anything else, Brad. I think we got everything.
Yep, the next regular scheduled meeting is May 22nd.
May 22, 2025 at 6 o'clock.
I do not think I'm going to be able to attend. I'm going to try to do it remotely. I'm traveling that day, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to make that one.
You will be missed.
May 22nd.
Mm-hmm. I can try and call in from an Uber, but we'll see.
That's inconvenient.
We'll see.
I will be here.
I will
I'll
be
be
here.
here too.
So it looks like we'll have a quorum for the 22nd. Does anybody have any items, correspondence, announcements, or anything like that?
I'll just state there's been a fair amount of work on the zoning administrator. It's possible at the next meeting we have an update.
Yeah, if you want to just talk about that quick.
Let's push it for next week.
Okay, but I do have a question, but we could talk offline about it.
Okay.
It's not anything that, yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you for pushing it forward.
Yeah, but let's talk about it at the next meeting.
Yeah, so it'll be on the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else? Maureen, shut up. No? Okay. Wow. This is your favorite time, so.
All right.
Dan gets to say he moves to adjourn, and Shara gets to say she wants to seconds it. So taking all the wind out of, Maureen's sail and Patty's.
It's keeping her awake.
I know.
All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. It is now 8:42.
In the middle of the night.
We'll close the meeting. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
Thanks, Donna.